After a dominant performance on defense, are the Seahawks in the driver's seat in the NFC West? We're going to be breaking it all down here on our Monday edition of Locked On Seahawks.
You are Locked On Seahawks, your daily Seattle Seahawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, 12. This is Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, your daily Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Glad to be joined, as always, here on our Monday episode by my co-host in crime, Rob Rang. And a special thanks to all the 12s who are listening in. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week, whether you're in Skyhomish, Washington, or Eden Prairie, Minnesota. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you. The Seahawks improving to 6-5 and jumping into first place in the NFC West after 12 weeks with a big win over the Cardinals at Lumen Field. We've got Monday Musings. We're going to be talking a bunch of in-depth takeaways on offense, defense, maybe some special teams sprinkled in as well in a jam-packed Monday episode brought your way by our friends at FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Now for your lead story here on our Monday edition of Locked On Seahawks. Winning a second consecutive game against an NFC West rival, the Seahawks took care of business at home with a 16-6 win over the Arizona Cardinals. Dominant defense. We'll have more time to talk about that later in the show. But with the Seahawks now being back above 500, they have the tiebreaker over the Cardinals. So they jump into first place. Looking at where things stand right now, heading into week 13, Rob, do you think that it is, a warranted take to say that this Seahawks team now is in the driver's seat in this division, or is it still, like most elections, too close to call?
No, I think the Seahawks are in the driver's seat. Obviously, when you are, and as you said, they own the tiebreakers at this point. Over the Arizona Cardinals, who of course entered the week in first place, and Seattle got that victory. Of course, they did the exact same thing the week before against the San Francisco 49ers. They get their opportunity to play the Los Angeles Rams here, and just a couple of more weeks to be able to be 500 against the Rams as well. But I do think that this is a Seahawks team that is ascending right now, and it feels like they are in the driver's seat. They have kicked over whoever was driver before and basically left them on the side of the highway. And I think that when you are playing the caliber of run defense that the Seahawks are, then you can play some pretty mediocre offense. And as we'll get into the show a little bit deeper, Corbin, certainly the Seahawks are playing some mediocre offense. But as Mike McDonald put it, in his press conference today, I mean, it's winning football. It's complementary football. I think that the Seahawks could have been much more aggressive on the offensive side of the ball if they had needed to. They didn't need to. Just because of the fact that they were controlling the line of scrimmage throughout most of this game. To be able to slow down James Conner the way that they did, to me, really was a masterclass in defense. I thought that this was the Seahawks' most impressive victory so far this season. I thought that it was even more impressive than what they did against the San Francisco 49ers and, any other matchup again this week, because the caliber of the opponent, because of everything that was on the line, and because Seattle had struggled so much against run defense and was so good in this particular matchup, basically made the Arizona Cardinals completely one-dimensional. That's why they won this game. So, again, I think that they absolutely are in the driver's seat moving forward in the NFC West division.
If you look at the New York Times division projections, the Seahawks are still not getting much love. In fact, they have them with a 20% chance to win the NFC West, and the Cardinals are still at a 51% chance. So if you're looking at those odds, then no, the Seahawks are not in the driver's seat. But I would tend to agree with you for a couple of different reasons. For one, you look at how things have changed in the NFC and NFC West standings as far as winning against your own division, your own conference mates. We remember a few weeks ago, the Seahawks were 1-4 against the NFC. Now they're almost back to the 500 mark, and they're 2-2 in the division. And so they have been able to help themselves out from those tiebreakers. And then you look at what's going on and what's transpiring in the rest of this division. The 49ers just got their tails kicked in by the Green Bay Packers. They didn't have Brock Purdy playing. Trent Williams was injured. They just found out that another one of their starting offensive linemen who was activated to return to practice, they're not going to have him for the rest of the season either. The 49ers are a mess right now. They've got injuries galore on both sides of the ball, and it doesn't feel like that team is the well-oiled machine that we have seen. Even the guys that are healthy, that are playing, it just doesn't feel like the same team we've seen the last couple of years. The Rams, look, Seattle has not been able to run the ball, but if you can't run the ball against that Rams defense, you saw what the Eagles did last night to them. The Rams have got some issues, and I don't see that being a team that's necessarily a contender at this point. And then Arizona, hey, you just beat them in your own place. You held them to 6 points. Now you get another test in a couple of weeks. Arizona's going to be coming out angry, looking to get a bounce back. But look, there isn't an elite team right now. Seattle's getting healthier. Uchenna Nwosu is going to return to practice this week. Mike McDonald said he's not going to play against the Jets on Sunday, but there's a chance he could be back for that second matchup in Arizona. And so your defense is going to get even better with him coming back. A lot of these teams are losing players, and the Seahawks are bringing guys back as they have the last couple of weeks with Abe Lucas. Timmy coming in and playing well at the center position. It feels like everything is leaning towards the Seahawks right now with what has transpired with the rest of this division, how the games have played out. I mean, they didn't just win on the field yesterday in their own game. The 49ers lost. The Rams got their tails kicked in. Both those teams got their butts whipped. And so really right now, the feeling in the locker room, the vibes in Seattle, they are warranted. This looks like a team that very much is in the mix to win this division. And like I said, the other thing that we have to consider here is the NFC records and the NFC West records. Right now, Seattle at 2-2. Yeah, the Cardinals and the Rams are both 2-1, but the 49ers are 1-3 in the NFC West. That is going to hurt Kyle Shanahan's team, even if they start to play better down the stretch. The fact they've lost that many divisional games already, and every team is under 500 against NFC foes. The Cardinals and Seahawks are tied for the best record against NFC foes at 3-4. And you can look at this two different ways, Rob. You've got tough games against Green Bay and Minnesota coming up. Those are two teams right now that would very much be in the playoffs, but you get both those games at home. And maybe this is what I'm most excited about. They actually played pretty well at home yesterday. We have not seen that forever. They had seismic activity on Kobe Bryant's interception return. Not quite beast mode level, but that's saying something. The fans are getting into it. You're putting a product out there now that is going to start getting the fans fired up. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe driver's seat's not the right thing, but they are crawling from the passenger seat over, and they are trying to jump into that driver's seat. I feel like that win yesterday, as you said, I think it was bigger than the 49ers game. But you get these two wins, you've gone from despair going into the bye to we're feeling pretty damn good about our situation now in the NFC West.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things that you said there, Corbin, that really kind of, again, just further illuminate why I think that the Seahawks are absolutely in the driver's seat. For one, the fan base and the fan expectation. Look, we've all seen, anybody who's been to Lumen Field the last couple of years has seen the fact that there are an increasing number of Seahawks season ticket holders who are selling their season tickets to, the highest bidder. And that oftentimes is rival fans. Now that the Seahawks are playing what I'd like to say is Seahawk football, defense and controlling the line of scrimmage and imposing their will, big plays on offense, defense, and special teams, I think that you're going to start to see a little bit more of that return to the true blue type of Seahawk fans who are going to be unwilling to sell their tickets. Also, on a very related note, I think that you're going to see less and less of the fanboy kind of expression here. The fans of other teams that may not be quite as willing to deal with the Seattle elements. We're going to start to see some of the cold, sleet type of rain, maybe some snow over the November, the December, and I believe the January months where Seattle as a division title winner potentially is not going to be as accommodating weather-wise to rival fans. And so again, I think that you are going to see a little bit more of an aggressive fan base, a vocal fan base out there that is going to make the Seahawks, defense that much more formidable. And then you said the real big key here, and that's the possible return of Uchenna Nwosu. Excuse me. You get Uchenna Nwosu back on the field, even just back on the practice field, which Mike McDonald said is going to be happening. He may not be available to play this week against the Jets. But at the same time, just getting number 10 back onto the practice field, I think adds up, or amps up, I guess I should say, the physicality, the intensity of this defense. Considering how well they are playing right now, to me, that is just frosting on the cake. So again, I feel like this is a Seahawks team that is playing better, and the rest of the NFC West is either plateauing or absolutely descending at this point.
When we come back, we're going to take a deep dive into this big win over the Arizona Cardinals, and we got to start on the defensive side of the football after holding the Cardinals to 6 points. We'll dish out our Monday musings on defense. That's coming up next here on Locked On Seahawks. History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Did you study these things in school? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But regardless, it's time for a refresher. Time and technology have changed a lot of things, but they have not changed basic fundamental truths about the world and our place in it. Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, socialism, and communism. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper. They've got readings, quizzes, discussions, or you can just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. This episode is also brought your way by friends at Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports avenue. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, and unlike other apps, it's just you against the numbers. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play. Even if one of your players gets injured, if you have a player that leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. Think Justin Jefferson's going to get more than 83.5 yards next week? Lamar Jackson to pass for more than 1.5 touchdowns? Cook up all those hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's LOCKEDONNFL and Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Welcome back to the Monday edition of Locked On Seahawks. This is your host, Corbin Smith. Glad to be joined, as always, by my co-host in crime, Rob Rang. And a special thanks to each and every one of the 12s tuning in. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. The Seahawks improving to 6-5 and jumping back into first place in the NFC West with a 16-6 smothering victory over the Arizona Cardinals. And I'm using that verbiage, Rob, because we're going to start our Monday musings off talking defense. And I don't know that there is a better word to describe the way that this group played yesterday than smothering, maybe suffocating. Those two words really are the first that come to mind, because this was as dominant of a defensive performance as we have seen really in a number of years from the Seahawks. When you consider the opponent that they were playing against, the talent that the Cardinals have, the way they had been rolling in their 3 games before the bye week, to go out and hold them to 6 points and score more points on defense than the Cardinals scored on offense. That by itself, I mean, it was a phenomenal performance that really started in the trenches and moved its way back to the second and third level.
Yeah, no question about it. And yeah, I think that smothering is a terrific word for it. I think that smug is a good word to describe the way that Mike McDonald afterwards kind of walked around like, yeah, this is what we expect things to look like here. And so I think that there is a confidence brewing in Seattle that I think that is very exciting. For Seahawks fans out there. Let's talk about the line of scrimmage. And I think that you can't have this conversation, not focus on Big Leonard Williams. Big Cat was unbelievable in this particular football game. I mean, just the statistics do basically say it all here. 6 tackles, 2.5 sacks for loss, 4 quarterback hits, a pass breakup. He was unbelievable. They moved him all over the line of scrimmage. You saw him in the interior where he was bull rushing at times, 2 or even 3 blockers being held up the point of attack. They moved him outside. He ran right over Paris Johnson, the Arizona Cardinals prize, former first-round selection, a guy who's getting bandied about as a possible Pro Bowl caliber left tackle for the Cardinals. I mean, he got completely just thrown to the side by Leonard Williams. So I think you have to start the conversation there. Jaron Reed, I thought played a great game. 3 tackles, half a sack, quarterback hit. Really doesn't describe as impactful as he was. Roy Robertson Harris, I mean, he had 1 tackle, but he made several big plays in this football game. So to me, you got to mention those veterans right off the top. Jonathan Hankins, very similarly, 1 assisted tackle. But at the same time, the Cardinals were unable to run the ball up the middle. So look, you want to mention a guy like Ernest Jones, in the fact that he led the team with 10 tackles. Obviously, Tyrese Knight, the rookie, had a spectacular performance as well. But at the same time, I really think that you have to focus in on the beef up front before you worry about the linebackers behind them. I thought that was the biggest reason why the Seahawks ran this game. Corbin, I've said it over and over again, until the Seahawks were able to play any kind of consistent run defense, that I thought they were going to basically lose every single game. They didn't just play run defense. They played smothering run defense against the Arizona Cardinals, and that's why they left Lumen Field with the victory Sunday.
Yeah, the defensive line is what made this all run yesterday. Looking at the gears, it was the defensive line. But at the same time, we have talked so much about Ernest Jones, and rightfully so, the way that he's playing. He's got 47 tackles in 4 games with the Seahawks, and it's not like he's racking these up 15 yards downfield. We know he's making plays consistently at the line of scrimmage, but we got to give Tyrese Knight some love as being just as significant adding to his starting lineup since he took over for Tyrell Dodson. And it's funny, this looks like it might be a win-win for everybody. Tyrell Dodson had an Odell Beckham Jr. type interception for the Miami Dolphins yesterday. So maybe he's feeling better in South Beach. Meanwhile, Tyrese Knight, what a game that he had. 9 tackles, his first career sack, and I think he should have had a defensive touchdown yesterday. I don't care what anybody says. I don't know how you overturn that fumble on the field and say that it's an incomplete pass. I think he should have had a return for a touchdown on that fumble. The guy is bringing great energy. He does it differently than Devin Witherspoon. He's not a chatterbox. He's not going to get taunting penalties on the sideline, but he's going to get after it, and he flies all over the field. You can see the ball hawking skills that he has in terms of hunting down guys, and he's playing with better instincts than I expected. Like, he's crashing gaps correctly. He's identifying plays. He was a big part of the equation shutting down James Conner yesterday. So, look, Ernest Jones has been an amazing addition, but I don't know that we're mentioning enough how much Tyrese Knight is getting the job done at that other linebacker spot and how he has meshed with this defensive scheme. And it just seems like he is running with this opportunity as much as he possibly could. There's a lot of reason to be excited about this linebacking core going into the last 6 games of the seaseason.
No question about it. But if you're going to say running with the opportunity, then, oh my goodness, we have to talk about Kobe Bryant. I mean, speaking of a guy who has absolutely seized his opportunities, whether it be previously at the nickel cornerback spot or now at safety, and the 69-yard touchdown or 69-yard return off of the interception for a touchdown. Look, Devin Witherspoon deserves an awful lot of credit for creating that play in the first place. It was his recognition and his hustle back that forced Kyler Murray, who was going to be able to scamper. I think that he fully expected that he was going to be able to easily convert that 4th and 1 running opportunity. And then when Devin Witherspoon crossed his face and was in position to be able to make the tackle for a loss, that's where Kyler Murray throws the ball. Kobe Bryant, of course, gets the interception, does his little Marshawn Lynch homage as he crosses the end zone there. But still, it wasn't just the touchdown. It's the fact that Kobe Bryant had 6 tackles in this football game. That was more than either Julian Love or Rayshawn Jenkins, both who also played very well in this particular game. But still, I really think that Kobe Bryant, he's getting all kinds of attention for his big play, as he should. He's going to get probably too much attention from the NFL committee here, and they're going to probably fine him for his celebration. But at the same time, I think that when we're talking about I don't want to say unheralded, because Kobe Bryant is getting all kinds of attention for his play, but that's because, frankly, he deserves it. He's making big plays, the same type of big plays that allowed him to win the Thorpe Award, of course, all those years ago at the University of Cincinnati, while everybody was focusing on Sauce Gardner. So again, this is nothing new for him. It's nothing new for Tyrese Knight to rack up tackles, but still, I think that both of them played a key role in Seattle's victory over the Cardinals.
And I'm glad you mentioned the other two safeties. I felt all three of those guys played at a really high level. And I'm going to pat myself in the back just a little bit because I know that we talked about this on Wednesday with Rayshawn Jenkins. I thought the right way to get him back into the lineup was to utilize him kind of like a money linebacker. And he was cash money on the field when they put him out there yesterday. And there were a couple plays that jumped out to me where it almost looked like he was kind of playing a semi-spiral as that money linebacker, and he was kind of following wherever Kyler Murray was going. And there were a couple times that Murray was trying to get outside, and you know what he's thinking, I'm going to throw it, but if the lane's there, I'm going to take off. He had 2 carries for 9 yards yesterday. And a big reason why he was not able to get those opportunities is because Rayshawn Jenkins, when he was out there, he was playing that money linebacker role with his speed, his pursuit angles. He was cutting off a number of those opportunities for Kyler Murray. And so you don't have the pass breakups. He didn't have the sacks or anything like that. But I thought Rayshawn Jenkins made a number of plays there. I loved how Mike McDonald didn't disrupt his defense, which he very easily could have done if he said, look, we signed this guy in the offseason. He's got to start. No, he rewarded Kobe Bryant, but he still gets Rayshawn Jenkins out there, and he put him in a role game plan-wise that really fit going against this opponent. So I thought that it was very swiftly done by Mike McDonald's staff, that they were able to find a way to mesh Rayshawn Jenkins in with the way this defense has been playing and not disrupt things too much. In fact, I loved when they mixed and matched him in there and his 3 safety looks. Really, you could argue 3 linebacker looks with the way they were using him, but it was very effective in taking away a lot of those running lanes for Kyler Murray. And I thought Rayshawn Jenkins, for his first game back, certainly played pretty well in a more situational role that I'm anticipating he's going to be playing moving forward, because you can't take Kobe Bryant off the field the way that he is playing right now. When we come back, we got offense to talk. And look, I know we were beaming here in this segment. We'll try to stay beaming in this next segment, but might be a little bit tougher when we look at the offense for our Monday Musings. That's coming up next here on Locked On Seahawks. This episode is brought your way by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app, they give you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. If you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats. They have play-by-play live and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Bet on everything from Jackson Smith-Njigba scoring his 5th touchdown of the season next weekend against the Jets, or Aaron Rodgers throwing 2 touchdowns against the Seahawks defense. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You're listening to the Monday edition of Locked On Seahawks. I'm Corbin Smith. Glad to be teaming up with my co-host in crime, Rob Rang. And as always, a special thanks to all the 12s out there. Thanks for listening in and making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We greatly appreciate it. For your second listen, make sure to tune in to the Locked On NFL podcast. It's now 2 days a week in the morning. You get your NFL cup of espresso with Tyler Rowland of Locked On Titans, and then our good friend Tony Wiggins of Locked On Jaguars, dishing out all the insight, analysis, with a blend of humor for the second show as well. That's on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Locked On NFL twice a day. Make it your second listen. Let's talk offense now, Rob. The Seahawks with a 16-6 win over the Cardinals yesterday. 7 of those points came from Kobe Bryant. So the offense only put 9 points on the scoreboard yesterday. Consistency continues to be an issue for this football team. And as you and I were talking about beforehand, 10-point win, it really felt like without that last drive where they got that extra field goal, I mean, this game was certainly closer even than what this score indicated. There was a razor-thin margin for error in large part because the offense was relegated to being ineffective for most of the afternoon.
Yeah, this was a defensive slugfest. I mean, it was a game more, similar to what we have seen previously between the Seahawks and the 49ers. Again, it is my kind of football. I think it's a lot of Seahawks fans kind of football. And again, it was, I think it was perfect that we saw the, Kobe Bryant being able to return that interception back, do the big leap, do the Marshawn Lynch thing. It felt like Legion of Boom style of football on Sunday. But I do want to talk about one of the things that you just mentioned there, Corbin, how razor thin this football game was. I'm just going to kind of throw out some of the team statistics. I think that really kind of illuminate just how close this football game was. As you said, it was 16-6. Seattle got the 6 points, of course, with Kobe Bryant's touchdown, and that matched what Kyler Murray and Arizona Cardinals offense was able to muster in this particular game. Seattle won the first down battle 17-15. So that was pretty darn close. Geno Smith threw for 22 of 31 for 254 yards. Kyler Murray was actually better than that. He was 24 of 37 for 285 yards. At the same time, of course, Geno Smith threw the touchdown, and Jackson Smith-Njigba also had a pretty ugly interception. Kyler Murray had an ugly interception of his own. That was the one that Kobe Bryant returned. Kyler Murray did not get a touchdown throw in this football game. And that was frankly surprising because there were a number of opportunities that the Cardinals had where they could have thrown for touchdowns. A couple of different opportunities to Michael Wilson, to Marvin Harrison Jr., the one that was called back that was very, very close to being touched. A heck of a grab by the rookie. And then also by Trey McBride, the tight end, a couple of opportunities that he had. So to me, this again was a very close game. The Cardinals were actually averaging more yards per carry. While we are, kind of singing the praises of Seattle's run defense, 14 rushing attempts for the Cardinals for 49 total yards. That's a 3.5 yard average. The Seahawks only averaged 2.6 yards per attempt. But that said, they ran the ball 25 times. They were absolutely doggedly determined to run the football. So 25 attempts for 65 yards. Net passing total, Arizona Cardinals 298. More than the Seahawks, 285 yards. So to me, this was a very close game. The difference in this football game, in my opinion, obviously, again, the turnover, but was third down conversion rate. And again, what this is a testament to is Seattle's ability to slow Arizona's running game early and then force the long third down conversion attempts. Arizona was 3 for 12 in this particular game. Seattle was 7 for 14. So again, the ability to kind of create a little bit more push in the running game for Seattle make those third downs more manageable. The flip side for Arizona Cardinals, that in a nutshell was why the Seahawks emerged out of this game victorious.
You mentioned the run game. I'm just going to go down the negative avenue here first. And we talk about broken records quite a bit on this show. This is becoming beyond a broken record at this point. It's a melded record. Like I don't know how else to say that this run game is broken. And I at this point don't know what they're going to do to fix it. And Mike McDonald today, both in his interview that he does on Seattle Sports and when I asked him up front today about why he's optimistic, because listen, I just don't agree. I'm not optimistic about this run game right now at all. They ran for 2.6 yards per carry yesterday, and you got to give them credit because they were able to get some key runs when they needed them, including Zach Charbonnet on that 3rd and 3 where he got 6 yards. And that was the play that Geno Smith, according to Mike McDonald, he checked out of a pass and he checked into that run. That ended up being a masterful audible that was called there by Geno Smith. But you take that run and a 12-yard run that Charbonnet had on a counter tray. You take those two plays out of the equation, they average under 2 yards per carry with their running backs in this game. That is unacceptable, especially when you consider Arizona. I know the Cardinals have played better defense their last 3 or 4 games, but they were one of the worst run defenses in the entire NFL in the first 6 games of the year. They got absolutely boat raced by teams. And you can't tell me that you can't find a way to get the run game going. It just seems like they can't get the cohesion that they need schematically with everybody doing their job. That's just all it takes is one guy not doing his job in the run game. And it just seems like every time they run the ball, something goes awry. They can't get things going. And that includes Ken Walker yesterday. There were a couple times, and look, I know it was raining, I know it was wet, but there were a couple plays that were blocked up pretty well. He had cutback lanes and he lost his footing and he wasn't able to take advantage of that. So this really felt like an entire offense's effort. And I give the coaching staff credit for continuing to push because I think you need to. There's got to be an effort to try to get that run game established. But right now, I don't share Mike McDonald's optimism. There's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about this football team, but that is not one area where I share that optimism with Mike Macdonald. Maybe there's a change that they can make, and this will lead into, I think, what you want to talk about here, but I don't know how they get this run game completely going, because Abe Lucas is in the lineup now and there's some decent showings there, but it still doesn't seem like they can get this run game untracked, and they're getting in their own way. And there's so many negative plays, which teams that run the football well, that doesn't happen. There's just too many plays that are setting back drives because they can't get push, or they're giving up instant penetration. Running backs are slipping. I mean, you name it, it went wrong yesterday. And there were some decent runs sprinkled in there, but still, the numbers are accurate in portraying the run game right now. It's terrible right now. I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, it has been terrible throughout much of the season. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm optimistic moving in the future, just because I believe that Olu Oluwatimi is going to be an upgrade over Connor Williams at center. I know damn well that Abraham Lucas is an upgrade over what the Seahawks have had previously in Mike Jarrell and Stone Forsythe at the right tackle position. Those two positions are going to get better as those two players, Olu Oluwatimi and Abraham Lucas, get a little bit more just seasoning, just play this year. So I do feel strongly about that. That said, I think at this point, the Seahawks are an average collection of talent at the offensive line at best. I think when you have 5 average players, when you're going up against NFL caliber competition, you need all 5 of those average run blockers to play at least a high level every single play if you're going to be able to create some kind of consistent push. Because again, there's just enough talent on the defensive side of the ball with all the opponents that you're focusing on. So if you can't get all 5 players all playing at the exact same level, if one guy makes a mistake, the other 4 players can be playing at about that average or above average level, but one player playing below average is going to basically ruin everything. Now, there were some splash plays in this particular game that got me excited about. You mentioned the counter trade. There was a counter trade that Zach Charbonnet was able to run for 12 yards. That was the second longest rush of the game. Kenneth Walker, the third, made basically chicken salad out of the alternative for a gain of 14 yards in one particular play. But in this particular play, the Seahawks had 2 wide receivers to the left. They had 2 wide receivers to the right. Interestingly enough, it was Cody White and Tyler Lockett to the left. It was DK Metcalf on the inside, slot position, Jackson Smith and Jigba on the outside. This was 1:39 left in the third quarter. The Seahawks were facing a 2nd and 7, and they did a counter trade where both the rookie right guard Christian Haynes and the right tackle Abraham Lucas basically sprung inside the kind of pulled and led through the gap with Abraham Lucas essentially serving as basically a leading fullback for Zach Charbonnet. This is the one where he kind of leapfrogged over or vaulted over Budda Baker. It was a beautifully blocked play. Charles Cross down block, Oluwatimi down block, Lakeland Tomlinson, also down block to kind of create a nice little running lane that, I know that you could have run through. You're a former running back. Hell, I was a former guard.
Let's not push it. I'm getting old. Yeah, 10 years ago, yes, maybe.
But it was a nicely blocked play. But again, that's how rare it is for the Seahawks right now, because they're just not running blocking very well. But I think that there are signs that this is starting to come along. And again, I do believe that this is certainly, the statistics prove it, that the Seahawks are one of the worst run blocking teams right now in the NFL. That said, the talent is good enough at running back. And I think that the health is returning along the offensive line, that there could be more success moving forward. And there's no doubt about it that if they can pass protect at all, Geno Smith remains one of the most accurate quarterbacks in all of the league.
And I'm loving the fact that you mentioned the guards, and I'm just going to throw this out here. I was the one that asked Mike Macdonald today about Christian Haynes' performance, and before he even mentioned Christian Haynes, he said Satao Lamea is going to get a chance to see what he can do this week. They're going to give him an extended look. Like, nothing says I didn't think you played very well more than I'm going to mention someone else is going to get a chance to compete for playing time this week. I mean, and Mike Macdonald, when he has made statements like this year, Trey Brown, he was asked about Trey Brown, and he's like, well, Josh Jobe, he mentions another player unprompted. That probably means that guy's going to get the playing time. He did it with Kobe Bryant earlier. It's a different approach. Pete Carroll could sugarcoat a turd and make it shiny. Like, he could do anything like that. But sorry, that was not a comparison I thought I was going to make today on the show. But they're different styles in how they approach things. When Mike Macdonald says something about a player like that and kind of corrects you about assuming that somebody's going to start, that normally means that player is going to get a real opportunity to play. So Tagovailoa was a pretty darn good run blocker at Utah, and they play that kind of physical downhill style. Maybe LeMaya ends up being the one. I mean, he was a 4-time Pac-12 all Pac-12 selection. He played tackle and guard there. So, he hasn't dressed for a game this year. So that's telling that you're talking about putting him in a position to maybe play this week against the Jets, who have some pretty good defensive linemen, Quinn Williams, anyone. But that might be the move that they're thinking. We're not getting the push we want with Christian Haynes. He's had enough chances. We're going to see what this other rookie can do out there. And maybe he can pass protect better too. And that leads into my last takeaway here. Geno Smith, that pick he threw, it's just like the one in San Francisco. Look, those plays drive you nuts. But then you go to that last drive, just like he did in Santa Clara. You go to that last drive, that 3rd and 8 play that he escaped a sack. I mean, he was fully wrapped up and somehow got away from that sack. He bolts out to his right, and then he throws a dart between 3 defenders. That was as tight a coverage you're going to get, completed to DK Metcalf 20 yards downfield. Those are the plays. Like, look, Mike McDonald talked about today. You got to have a balancing act. You cannot just tell Geno Smith, hey, we don't want you taking those shots, because so much of what has worked for Seattle this year has been his ability to be that playmaker. You can't take that away from it. Obviously, you're going to continue to harp. We can't have those turnovers in the red zone, especially in tight games like this. Those things, they got to find a way to eliminate. I think if you could run the ball better, it would certainly help. But I think that this is a case where you can look at a play like that, and then you can find 15 other plays in the game that you're like, the playmaking ability is the only reason we're in this game right now, or we're winning this game. So that is the balancing act that you have got to have there. And with that being said, Geno Smith has to stop making those mistakes. Got to cut down on them in the red zone. Got to find a way to find a little more of that balancing act on his part, but you can't take the playmaker out of him, because that's been what's kept the Seahawks afloat this year to put them in a position to win the NFC West. As always, you can follow me on X and Blue Sky at Corbin Smith NFL. You can follow Rob at Rob Rang. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Seahawks on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast to make sure you don't miss a single episode. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to switch things up a little bit with the holiday week. Instead of Tell the Truth Tuesday, we're going to talk about what we're thankful about where the Seahawks are at after 12 weeks in the season. Make sure that you're listening in and enjoy the rest of your Monday. Go Hawks.